Greatness is contagious. Once you witness it, it's impossible to settle for less. The 1990s weren't just another chapter in bodybuilding history. They were the rebirth of legends. This was the era of titans, a time when physiques were carved not just for size, but for symmetry, detail, and raw, unapologetic dominance. The 90s stage was a battlefield.
Everybody gained faith. It's like, we're going to war with each other.
And every show felt like an all-out war for perfection. Dorian Yates, the Shadow, rewrote the rulebook with his granite-hard conditioning and sheer mass.
I think there was just a lot of really good guys all at one time in the 90s. And when I was in bodybuilding, I was so immersed in it, like a tunnel vision, that I literally did nothing else. I thought about nothing else.
He was a mystery off stage, but when he stepped into the spotlight, it was like witnessing a force of nature. His 6-year reign as Mr. Olympia was unmatched, a testament to his relentless work ethic and indomitable mindset.
The winner of Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates.
But Yates wasn't alone. Enter Flex Wheeler, the Sultan of Symmetry. With a physique so flawless, it looked like it was sculpted by the gods themselves. Every pose told a story, every line a masterpiece of aesthetic perfection. Then there was Kevin Levrone, the Maryland muscle machine, known for his mind-blowing ability to transform from off-season to stage-ready like a superhero donning his armor.
I've seen Kevin go from not trained to, and then I saw him like 3 months later, and I was like, oh my God, and he had like cellophane skin, and he was just crazy. And
who could forget Sean Ray, whose classic lines and polished presentation made him the poster child for timeless bodybuilding artistry.
Everybody competes on a certain level. But when I was competing, they were looking at everybody else. Everybody was like, whoa, man, you got to be in shape, you got to be in condition.
It was all over. It was like, where did this dude come from?
I would say definitely that was the most intense period.
Mr. Olympia was, you know, the pinnacle of bodybuilding. Was very popular in the 90s.
Flexing in the gym lights, it's another day. Dorian Yates lifting heavy, proving strong all the way. Ronnie's got that vibe you never can deny. Kevin Levrone's legacy reaching for the sky. Pump it up, break the chains and hit the weights. Feel the burn in every muscle, no more waiting for fate. Flex Wheeler showing moves you know we can't ignore. Old school vibes bringing life, we always want more. Gold's Gym echoes with stories of the past. We train like legends, making moments last. Sweat glistens as we push through the pain. In the Iron Cathedral, every drop of gain. The clank of steel, it's a 90s throwback. Determined faces, never looking back. Bodybuilders in their prime, giving it their all. One rep stronger, we'll break through every wall.
I think there was just a lot of really good guys all at one time in the 90s.
Pump it up, break the chains and hit the weights. Feel the burn in every muscle, no more waiting for fate. Flex Wheeler showing moves you know we can't ignore. Old
those guys. They didn't go for being.
With the spirit of legends, we rise and we shine. Every weapon set moving past the line. It's a brotherhood unbroken with the strength we share. In the heart of the gym, we show how much we care. We always want more. We always want more.
This is the era of bodybuilding that you have never seen before and may never see again. The 1990s were a golden age, a perfect storm where legends collided on the same stage, creating an electrifying spectacle of muscle, dedication, and rivalry. Back then, it wasn't just about winning, it was about surviving the gauntlet. The competition was that fierce. Any one of those guys on any given day could walk away as Mr. Olympia. Every competitor stepped on stage with a game face that screamed, "We're going to war." The physiques were unreal, massive, shredded, and perfectly balanced.
No lie, if you said to me, I've seen Ronnie Coleman, obviously I competed with him, no one could ever blow your mind like Lee Priest looked when he was 21 years old. Fucking nuts. Walked in the gym and I remember like looking at him and saying, how is that even possible? But he was massive.
Lee Priest, the blonde myth, was a living contradiction to the rules of the 90s. While the era was dominated by towering giants, Lee stood shorter but packed a physique so freakish it left the crowd in disbelief. Ronnie Coleman, the name alone shakes the foundations of bodybuilding history. In the 90s, he wasn't just a man, he was a juggernaut. His size was unimaginable, his strength legendary. When Ronnie stepped onto the stage, it was like watching a storm roll in, unstoppable, unrelenting, undeniable. With every yeah buddy and lightweight baby, he didn't just lift weights, he lifted the sport itself. Nasser El Sonbati, the uncrowned king, was a force unlike any other. A mountain of muscle wrapped in razor-sharp conditioning, Nasser wasn't just competing, he was demanding respect. With every pose, he stood toe-to-toe with legends, proving that size, symmetry, and an iron will could rewrite the rules. He didn't need a Sandow to validate his legacy. Nasser was greatness, a symbol of the 90s raw, unfiltered hunger for dominance.
Jay Cutler was the relentless underdog, the man who rose from the shadows of legends. In an era dominated by freaks and titans, Jay brought a physique carved from stone and a work ethic that refused to break. He wasn't flashy, he was focused. Every rep, every set, every sacrifice, it all built a man who would stop at nothing to etch his name into the history books. Jay wasn't chasing dreams, he was hunting destiny. Milos Sarcev, the mind of bodybuilding, brought beauty to the brutality of the 90s. His physique was a masterpiece, his posing routines an art form. He didn't just walk onto the stage, he owned it, transforming his every move into a moment of awe. Milos proved that symmetry and precision could leave an even greater mark. When Paul Dillett stepped on stage, the world stood still. Towering, massive, and downright freakish. He wasn't just a bodybuilder, he was a spectacle. Dubbed Freakenstein, Paul's proportions looked more like a comic book character than a human being. Every time he hit a pose, it wasn't just muscle, it was pure shock and awe. Paul wasn't just big, he was monumental. Chris Cormier wasn't called the real deal for nothing. He had it all, genetics, symmetry, and a presence that couldn't be ignored. But Chris didn't just build muscle, he built moments. On stage, he was electric, commanding attention with every pose. Off stage, he was the embodiment of the 90s vibe, cool, confident, and hungry for glory. And then there was Marcus Rühl, the German freak who made size his signature. His delts were planets, his width a force of nature. Marcus wasn't just a competitor, he was a phenomenon. In an era of mass monsters, he stood as a giant among giants. Marcus didn't just enter the room, he owned it, proving that sometimes bigger really is better. These weren't just bodybuilders, they were icons. Warriors of an era when muscle wasn't just built, it was forged. The 90s were raw, epic, and unforgettable. And these men made it legendary.
It was like every athlete was sculpted from granite, each one a human specimen that made you pause and think, how does this even make sense? The 90s weren't just about muscles, they were about originality. These athletes didn't just build bodies, they built legacies. What they brought to the stage had never been done before, and it hasn't been replicated since. You could feel the energy in the air. Fans would ask, who is this guy? Where did he come from? The answer didn't matter because the standard was set. You had to be in the best condition of your life just to compete, let alone win. It was the most intense period in bodybuilding history. The glory days. A time when greatness wasn't an exception, it was the rule. Looking back, you can only admire the era when giants walked among us and the sport reached its peak. A time that will forever remain unparalleled.
If this guy did what I do, I have a real hard time beating him. If he did what I did, if he had my brain, my approach, my dedication.
Every Olympia, every Arnold Classic was a showdown of titans. It wasn't just about who had the biggest muscles. It was about who had the grit to push beyond limits, to master their craft, and to embody the very essence of human potential. The 90s era wasn't just about bodybuilding. It was about setting the standard, about showing the world what was possible when discipline met determination. And the energy, electric. Fans packed arenas, voices roared like thunder, and the champions rose like modern-day gladiators. This was the era of icons, the decade of dreams, where the pursuit of greatness wasn't optional, it was destiny. When legends walked the earth, the 90s weren't just a time, they were a movement. This was bodybuilding. This was the 90s.